All right, I think we can get started here. Well, happy Friday, Junior, everyone, and welcome to our first design session in our webinar series. And here we're going to be diving a little bit more deeply into design-related topics, and we'll also explore some ideas that you can apply into your own projects that you're working on. So for today's session, what we're going to do is cover top design trends that we're kind of predicting to be really popular within 2024. We'll go through what makes them so special, and we'll also give you some hot tips and tricks on how you can apply these trends within your own designs. And at the end, we can keep the conversation going within the discussion boards and talk about, what trends you're most excited about, and even share some examples of those trends that you see out in the wild. So before we get into the lesson today, just a little bit about myself. I'm Adrian. I'm a designer, I'm a pun enthusiast, and I am a trivia fanatic. Jeopardy is on 24/7 in my apartment. I have a background in architecture and design, and I've been working at Ceres for about 8 years now. I started at the professional services team working on customer projects. I also worked within the strategy team with consultations, and now I'm working within the educate team as a designer advocate. So enough about me. Let's get into the good stuff. Here are the design trends that we're kind of predicting for this year. We have five, but I'm sure there's a lot more. And we'll start out with AI imagery. So AI imagery and generative fill have made massive progress over the last couple of years, and it's a really exciting time, especially within the design industry. The possibilities are virtually endless. You can use AI to do things like upscale or enhance images, regardless of its image quality. You can make modifications to existing images or existing videos, like transforming objects and adding visual effects. You can even kind of extend the bounds of your image larger and use AI to fill in what's missing on the edges. And of course, you can use AI to generate a completely new and unique image. So let's take a look at how AI imagery has kind of evolved over the last couple of years. This is Midjourney with their text to image generation. You can even see from version 1 through version 4 in just a few months. It's incredible. The images are just getting better and better and better. And it's getting trickier for us to kind of tell the difference between what's real and what's artificial. In my opinion, it's not really at the point where it can do everything for you already, but I think that it's already a great place to start, or at least integrate into your own workflow. So the main method of using AI imagery or generative fill is through something called text to image prompts, or like how you talk to it. And there are a ton of resources around the internet around effective prompt engineering, which is actually the technical term that they use there. And it basically means how you communicate with what you want the AI to do and how you want it to respond. At Ceres, we even create our own AI design assistant called Gemma, and she can help you with things like copywriting, brainstorming ideas, of course, generating images, creating presentations, templates, and so much more. That's just scratching the surface. And it's super easy, right? You just talk to her like you're having a conversation with someone else. And the output really just depends on your prompts or how you talk to it. So the AI will do its best to follow what you're describing. So you can try things like being hyper specific or highly detailed with your prompt to get a result that's a little bit closer to what you're envisioning. You can also play around with trying some simple prompts, like letting fate decide. There's no right or wrong here. It's definitely something to explore, experiment, or at least familiarize yourself with, since I don't think it's going anywhere. It's going to continue to evolve and it's going to revolutionize the way that we create. So I added a note here around avoiding hands in text. It's kind of nightmare fuel at the moment, but there have been rumors that just last week, SD3 or Stable Diffusion's newest release can actually produce accurate and stylized legible text and even generate improved appendages like hands and fingers. So be sure to check that out as well. So kind of contrasting a little bit the AI image generation, we have doodles or hand-drawn art. And these are becoming really popular again to add that human touch factor that really gives personality and charm. And there are tons of companies out there that are using doodles as part of their branding to make more of that sort of emotional and personal connection with their audience, including companies like Notion, Zendesk, and even here at Ceros with kind of accent doodles. And now we're not saying that you should reinvent your entire brand to include like mascots or hand-drawn icons. And a lot of companies are doing that to kind of freshen up their image, but including some personal touches with subtle, intentional use of hand-drawn elements can really make that emotional bond with your audience, both new and existing customers. So be playful, be creative, experiment with things like colors, styles, shapes, and other aesthetics to really bring that kind of hand-drawn effect. And this trend is really popular too, right? This is just always going to happen. We have the retro kind of trend. It really just depends on the era that we're kind of focusing on. And right now, we're kind of leaning towards the 80s and the 90s. And I'm a millennial, so this really hits home big time for me. This nostalgic vibe is growing in popularity by using things like color, texture, fonts, and kind of graphic styles of that era, but with a little bit more of a modern twist. And some companies are even going as far as reimagining their entire brand to evoke that sense of nostalgia, such as Burger King or Pepsi, who have even reverted their logos back to the versions of the 80s and the 90s. So within these two examples, we're kind of showing a lot more of like the pastel colors or the stylistic fonts from that era. But there were so many more different kind of styles that were growing in popularity back then, including things like 80s deco, tropical style, neon noir, cyberpunk, the iconic Memphis design style like Saved by the Bell, or even pixels or 8-bit design. So we've seen this trend kind of pop up throughout this entire decade, right? Tech companies have been doing this kind of cyberpunky, neon inspired kind of visual over time. But I challenge people, like, think about doing something like this within, I don't know, the medical field, the legal field. Legal. Yeah, that'd be hysterical. And then gaming companies are even going back to these roots of 8-bits, like highly detailed 8-bit design for their video games, or taking inspiration from cyberpunk era. Like this awesome website for Den of Wolves. Like, look how incredibly immersive this feels. Just it kind of feels kind of hackery, very, very punky. And then of course we have Memphis Studio themselves. They are, the inventor of the Memphis design style, but they're keeping up with the Joneses. They're updating their brand. They're trying out new colors, new textures, new styles to kind of reinvent themselves a little bit, right? And then going back to what I was saying about kind of entire brands reinventing themselves, this is Pepsi's new brand. It's very kind of edgy, but the logo looks so much like their version from the 80s and the 90s. Like look at the versions from 91 to 2024. It kind of had this, they were teetering, right? But then they looked at it and they said, hey, this is iconic. We're going to go back to the 80s. So yeah, if you look back to the 80s design styles, you'll notice that they're all really flashy and really bold. And pop culture back then was loud and rebellious, punky and grungy. So you'll definitely want to invoke some of that energy into your retro inspired designs. To find opportunities to include things like 8-bit graphics or something like blocky digital typeface from a Casio watch. You can experiment with funky geometric shapes that feel a little bit more Memphis design style. Play around with bright neon colors or soft pastel colors, like kind of teeter between them. And you can even kind of force that nostalgic flavor with grainy textures or make easy references to the 80s or the early 90s as a quick and easy way to start. So retro and vintage, my era. So up next we have maximalism. And maximalism, just by definition, is the complete opposite of minimalism. And with this trend, more is more. More is better, right? And as designers, we're constantly swinging between minimalism and maximalism. And at this current moment, I feel like we're kind of swinging towards maximalism, but we have not yet reached the peak of where maximalist design is taking over everywhere. So this trend really focuses on having that wow factor that helps design immediately attract the audience and helps you stand out against the crowd. So it celebrates imprecision, it celebrates diversity, and it encourages you to be more spontaneous. And this this trend is not just happening within graphic design, it's actually happening everywhere, right? Web design, music, fashion, interior design, social media, and even things like immersive exhibition, just to name a few. For example, K-pop, right? Growing in popularity internationally, which I think specializes in kind of being unpredictable and breaking boundaries. It's really, really difficult to pinpoint one genre of K-pop. And then there's also Meow Wolf. They have these incredibly immersive exhibitions that are just out of this world. This one from Las Vegas, it starts out as like an 80s supermarket, and then you can like go into one of the refrigerators, turn a corner, and find something completely unexpected and surreal. It's incredible. I'm just a huge fan of their work. So some tips here: be deliberate, but also don't be afraid to experiment. Colors, textures, varying fonts, layering, and even toss in some mixed media there and play around with unique layouts. Remember, you want to be extra here, to go above and beyond just to attract attention and fill the entire space. The key is just to let loose, embrace the imprecision, use aggressive layering, play around with things like repetition or abstraction, and be playful, clever, funny, or even kitschy and tacky. But a word of caution here, it's not for everyone. Maximalism is very over the top. It's highly visual, and that can sacrifice a little bit of functionality. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. Let me explain. So some people criticize that maximalist design is loud and obnoxious, but I feel like this can also kind of invigorate something along the lines of passive engagement. So you're tricking your audience to take a longer look at your design, appreciate the design a little bit more, and investigate, kind of like a Where's Waldo in your graphic, right? Like take a look at this Paula Scher picture from the 90s. It's just a bunch of words on this on a poster, and the only graphic thing was really the dancing guy. But as you start to look at it a little bit longer, you notice that this is the kind of program for their entire season. So I can look at the graphic and try to find an event that I'm looking for. It takes me a little bit longer, but that's a good thing, right? Longer time on page. So then we're going to wrap up with our last trend for 2024. And I think this is going to be a big one. This is one of my favorites. This is bento boxes. Obviously inspired by the Japanese food containers. This trend kind of leverages the idea of grids and flexible compartments to help organize your information. And I think bento boxes have been around for a while now, but it really came to the forefront of layout design when Apple introduced their M1 MacBook Pros and their stylized spec sheets. Before that, it was just kind of like a nutritional facts list of facts. But look how different their keynotes are from Steve Jobs to now, right? There's so much more information that would have been really, really difficult to demonstrate in just words on the screen. So it's a lot more exciting, a lot more visual with graphics and typography, and it feels almost interactive, right? You can learn a lot more from this visual about their products than just a big word on the screen saying smartphone or 3G. And this layout method of organization is super versatile, right? It's also highly scalable. So you can play around with the sizes and the shapes of the boxes to fit whatever content you're working with. And for me, like from my perspective, I just find it all super satisfying about how these boxes are laid out. It doesn't feel like there's any wasted space, and the arrangement of the information feels intentional, right? So lots of companies are following suit here, including Poppy, on their homepage. And even here at Ceres, where we have these kind of bento boxes for our welcome packages. And if you're curious about how you can apply these bento boxes into your own designs, we've actually included some links here so you can kind of take some inspiration and try it out for yourself. So a few tips here. Start with a grid of rectangles or boxes. And then you can go around to map out how you want to lay out your content within those boxes. Then you can go to adjust the size of the boxes to appropriately fit that content, and then consider things like highlighting or emphasizing main points by including color, graphics, animations, contrasting typography, really anything to make it stand out. But I think the most important part of a clean and successful bento box layout is the spacing between the boxes. So be sure to measure the in-between spaces and make them consistent, both horizontally and vertically. Just a shameless plug here. We actually teased this idea already this month with the creative challenge earlier. And we explored kind of textures and bento box layouts in kind of a challenge there. We already have some incredible designs posted within the thread. And if you haven't done so, we would love to see yours in there too. So those are the trends that, or at least five of the trends that we're kind of expecting to see within 2024. So just to recap, we have AI imagery, hand-drawn art or doodles, retro 80s, minimalism, and of course, my favorite, the bento box. And at this point, during a presentation, we'd normally open up the floor to questions, but I think it would make sense for us to just share and chat here. What trends are you most excited about? And what other trends are you noticing to be really popular this year that we did not mention? Yes, the bento boxes definitely do feel fresh. It's just so clean the way they lay out information. I agree, Laura. Agreed, Allison. It's just incredible how much information you can kind of display, even just looking at, right, this. That's so much information within the iPad OS, but it doesn't feel overwhelming. It feels kind of, you know, if I am looking for a specific thing, I can find it there. Cheryl says we've had clients already asking the doodles trend in our work. That is incredible. I hope you have so much fun with that. That seems like it'd be amazing. Eric. Yeah. A lot of information in one place. ADHD is definitely, a concern, but I can kind of talk about, maximalism and bento boxes in kind of the same way. If you think about social media, uh, if I'm doom scrolling before bed and I stumble upon something like one of those Reddit posts with Minecraft or Subway Surfers in the background, I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. So I have such a short attention span that I need something in order for that type of content to kind of capture my attention. The retro look is pretty big. I don't know, Travis. The video games that we discuss have been like either throwbacks to the old days, or they have been like updated pixel versions of like really cool new concepts. I agree, Laura. Combining the bento box idea with other trends could be super cool. Like even, the doodles, if you connect multiple boxes together with like the squiggly arrows, that'd be amazing. Great. Well, Octopath Traveler, I need to check that out. Cool. Well, thanks for sharing, everyone. And just for the sake of time, I don't want to take up everyone's time here. I would love to continue this conversation within either the comments section or within the design help board. And just to recap, like what trends are you most excited about? And if you find any of these trends out in the wild, share them with the crowd. We'd love to see them. So as always, you can find useful guides, webinars, courses, community spaces, all within our Educate portal, including the design help discussion board, webinars and events, and also participate in our monthly creative challenges. I also want to invite everyone here to try out our AI design assistant, Gemma, for things like image creation or brainstorming for presentations. We have actually an exciting webinar coming up on a new Gemma feature that'll be hosted by Kelsey on the Educate team, as well as new creative challenges coming in March. So definitely be on the lookout for those. Awesome. So I hope everyone's excited as I am about design this year. And from all of us on the Educate team, we appreciate each and every one of you. And hopefully we'll see you again soon. Thanks, everyone.